Hey guys, welcome. I'm your host, Dr. Alison Bremner, and this is episode 1, season 1. And today we're going to talk about the 5 mistakes that you can avoid when opening your own practice. Now, I've been in practice for over 10 years and I've coached many associates. And what I find is there's these mistakes that are made over and over again when new docs want to open their own practice. And so hopefully today I can help you avoid making some of those mistakes. And I'd love to hear your guys' feedback on what you thought. So let's just jump right into it. The very first mistake that I see all the time are that new chiropractors or new grads, they really want to get a huge loan to start their practice because in their mind for the last 3.5 years, you've been thinking, exactly how you want your office to look, how you want to smell, like where you want to be, and usually want this big open office with a bunch of square footage. But you already have probably $250,000 in loans that you owe to the school. And yes, you're going to be making money to pay those back. But, the best advice that I got was trying to keep your overhead as low as possible. And if you go into a bank and asking for a big, huge loan, first off, they're going to laugh at you because you have no business experience, no working experience, and a huge loan that you already have. So it might actually be almost impossible for you to get a business loan to begin with. But if you can have someone co-sign, which is probably the only way you could get a business loan, really it's a very high interest rate that you're typically getting, again, because you don't have any sort of business experience. And throughout the years, I've noticed when I make upgrades to my office that patients don't even notice. I mean, you could make really nice upgrades, new paintings, you can paint the walls, you get new lighting, and you're really happy with it. And a lot of times your patients honestly don't even notice. So the reality is that they don't care that much. And yes, you need to have a nice, clean office, but you don't need like a 2,000 square foot office with a bunch of empty rooms. And that's what I see is these chiropractors saying, oh, well, this room will be for this eventually. But the reality is you can also upgrade. You don't have to spend all the money and make your office exactly what you want to right out of school because we really want to keep your overhead as low as possible. If you don't know who your target market is, it's actually, ridiculous to set up an office when you don't know what they actually want, because your office should look in a way and feel in a way that your target market wants it to look. And so if you see kids, for example, you're going to want an office with, play area or a place for them to run around and being kid friendly. And maybe you find out that you don't want to see kids and then you set that up and then you start seeing a bunch of kids and then you have an office that you actually don't like. So I would highly suggest to not spend a bunch of money right out of school, especially on opening your own office and having it look a certain way when you actually don't really know what you want. So that's the first big mistake that I see. The second mistake is not having a website. And so, yes, I do want you to make sure that you are thinking about your overhead and keeping it really low. This is the one area where I would say if you're going to dump some money into, I would highly recommend dumping a bunch of money into your website. And honestly, this is the biggest mistake. I don't know what it is about chiropractic and chiropractors, but I see a lot of people from the stage say something like, I've never done online marketing, or, I don't even have a website and my office is busy and full. Well, that's great if it was 1980 when you started your office, but nowadays, if you don't have a website, then you are irrelevant. And when I say a website, I don't mean something that people can go to that looks nice and pretty. I'm talking about the back end. So when you go Google something, so let's say you want to eat Chinese food, for example. I mean, what do? You type in, Chinese food near me, or, fried rice best in the area, or maybe the city in Chinese food. Now, how do you think that those websites come up first? Well, it's because they have back end keywords. And so I'm not really going to go into all of the nitty gritty in here, but like the SEO or the search engine optimization, that's created by website designers and the website coding. And so when you pay a web designer or create a website, that's what you're really paying for. And so what's crazy to me is that, chiropractors seem adverse to wanting to have online marketing. I don't really know why, because I can't think of a better way to market and reach as many people as possible, especially if you're a certain kind of specialized office. Like, let's say, like if you see kids, then the pediatric chiropractic would be a good keyword, or, chiropractor who adjusts children, or whatever that may be. The best way to figure that out is to sit down and talk to a web designer and a web company. And the thing is, I mean, you're going to want to spend somewhere between like $5,000 and $7,000 on this, which can sound like a lot. And it's interesting to me that chiropractors have no problem spending $10,000, $15,000 on their build out. Meanwhile, they don't spend any money on patient generating activities. When I say patient generating activities, I mean things that you would do and spend money in exchange for hopefully getting patients that actually makes you money. Because the difference is you put a bunch of money into your office. I mean, it looks nice, but that's not going to make you any money. That's not going to bring you any patients. On the flip side, though, if you create or have someone create a website, I do not recommend doing it yourself. You do not know what you're doing. If you have someone create that website for you and they put the keywords in, even if it's basic keywords like best chiropractor in Boulder, Colorado is where I practice. And so that's a popular keyword. Now, putting that money into it may sound like a lot, but it's going to start bringing you people into the office. And so that is the one area where I advocate actually putting a lot of money into, because you also want someone to design a website with a color scheme and like making it for the public. Because here's the reality. When I work with either, someone that helps my social media, someone who's helping me design things, my website, I never listen to other chiropractors because they have wackadoodle ideas in their head. Chiropractors love crazy, weird stuff, and the general public doesn't like that. So if I'm talking to a web designer and I tell them, hey, I see women between the ages of 35 to 55, they typically have conditions like vertigo or migraines or neck pain. And I tell them this information, and then they design things based on the people that I'm trying to reach. They don't design things based on what I like. So I don't have, an atlas bone or like some weird chiropractic thing on my website. In fact, if you saw my website, you probably wouldn't even know I was a chiropractor until you actually read that it said chiropractor on there, because the design and aesthetics that has is to attract that ideal client. And so I really recommend that you take opinions of people who are experts in their area, expert in design, expert in marketing, expert in keywords, and to not, what normally chiropractors do is they ask other chiropractors what they think. And of course, like, that's totally cool. I love that. I love the design. You have the bones on there, and you have like, a quote from BJ Palmer, which is absolutely absurd to the general public. So when creating websites and creating those type of digital marketing, you really need to hire someone that knows what they're doing, because that's really going to help you bring people in and bring these patients in, because that's what the problem is. When you're a brand new doc, the biggest challenge is getting new patients and building that clientele. And I'll tell you, going out there and trying to do spinal screenings or going out there and like doing these one-to-ones, which may be helpful, but you're really only reaching, 10 people at a time, when online you can be reaching 100 people, 1,000 people, all these people in your area. So these old tactics that a lot of times chiropractors that used back in the 80s, they really don't work anymore. And so your online presence is the absolute number one thing that you should do. Another thing about websites too is, since chiropractors are terrible at online marketing and they're terrible at getting their name out there, you can be a brand new doc and just surpass everyone very, very quickly online, because they don't put any energy into it. And if you put energy into it by getting Google reviews, those keywords, having content, making sure that you're constantly out there online, and start to get really, really busy and collect all those online people. So that's the thing about if you're new in practice, that's why a website is so helpful to you. So, a lot of these tips that I'm giving is, one, how to minimize your overhead and save money, and two, how to be able to market in today's world. And even with COVID, everything went basically online. So a lot of chiropractors that didn't have an online presence and used to do these kind of old marketing events, they had a really tough time. In my practice personally, we were twice as busy during COVID, because since everyone was online and searching, we had so many people come in, because that's basically where we spent all of our money marketing. So again, a website is super important, and I harp on this all the time. I think I harp on it because really I get a lot of pushback from chiropractors that they think that they can do it themselves, or they don't need to do it, or they'll do it when they have money, something like that. It really should be the first thing that you do. So moving into the third mistake that I see all the time is hiring a front desk person. I think this is very interesting. And I think that it really comes from, a lot of chiropractors kind of either have an ego, or they're like very, very sensitive, and they're like, I'm a doctor now, and so now I expect these certain things, or things are beneath them, and they can't possibly answer the phone or talk to someone. And so they hire this front desk person. And the reality is, this is what happens most of the time. Student graduates, they maybe put a little bit of money aside. They ask their parents to co-sign a loan. They get a business loan. They make their office the way they want to look. They hire a front desk person. And day one, they're sitting there twiddling their thumbs, that front desk person is making money and they're not making any money because they have patients. And I think that it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a front desk person. That's not what I'm advocating, but I'm saying it's totally not necessary. I've been in practice for 10 years and I've never had a front desk person. It doesn't mean I haven't had people help me in the office, but I think a front desk person at this point in this day and age, they really just a waste of time and a waste of money. I think you could be hiring other people that will help you in your office. And here's the other thing. If you're thinking about how normal people are treated by the medical community, they're sick and tired of they never get to talk to the doctor. They don't know what's going on with their health. And they just basically go in, they've been on a wait list for 6 months. They go in, maybe talk to the nurse practitioner for 30 seconds. The doctor comes in for 3 seconds, gives them some medication. That's it. So if you can really be the opposite of that, where you are answering the phone, people, one, are appreciative of that. They're like, oh, I'm talking to the doctor. Like, that's amazing. This is so cool because my quote unquote doctor, my medical doctor, doesn't care at all about me and doesn't give me the time of day. So if you can just kind of get over yourself and answer the phone, you're going to make that person, one, trust you way more because they're able to talk to you, and they're probably sick and tired of the Western medicine and how I'm treated. So right away, they're going to love you. And then that's going to be someone that's going to stay in your office. Another thing is, I know that you think it looks professional having someone else answer the phone and schedule for you. But the reality is, when they schedule for you and they're not going over, let's say, pricing, they're just getting you on the schedule, and then you, the doctor, is talking to them, and then they go back to the front desk person because you don't want to handle money. That's another thing, is usually you want a front desk person because you are terrified of talking about money or handling money, or you think that that's not your doctor, so you shouldn't do that. But you can actually charge 5 times, 10 times more if you actually talk to the patient. So if you are on the phone talking to the patient and they're talking directly to the doctor, they're thinking, oh man, this is expensive, because obviously the doctor is taking the time, and it's a very personalized care plan, a very personalized care. And then when it comes to the time where, like, how much is this going to cost, that you're not shy about it, that you're just like, it's going to be $3,000 for care, and that's totally comfortable for you, then they're totally comfortable giving that to you. But if you're charging more money and you're having a third person try to pick up that money, it's much, much harder. And so I work with my associates and I work with other docs a lot on the money mindset. We're not really going to talk about that today, but if you're able to not be uncomfortable with answering the phone, not be uncomfortable with talking about money and collecting the money, it's going to be a lot easier for you because you can screen your patients, make sure they're going to fit in the office. And so, a front desk person, in my personal opinion, is just a waste of money, waste of time. Now, as you start to get busy, of course, you can hire someone to answer the phone for you. Of course, you can hire someone to help you out. But I would much rather just have a phone service that would answer phone calls for you, have a personal assistant, or maybe like a social media person, someone that could actually help you do things that's going to generate money for you. Just having someone at the front desk to greet somebody, or it really, in my opinion, is something that doctors do to quote unquote look professional, or because they don't want to do certain things. But I think that you can always upgrade at things. So same thing with your office. Like, you can upgrade to a bigger office. You can upgrade to nicer things. You can upgrade to, if you wanted a front desk person, or hopefully, as we talk a little more, you're going to think about a personal assistant or someone helping you with your online presence. So yeah, that's what I see all the time. Third biggest mistake is hiring a front desk person right off the bat when you aren't even making money to pay them. So I would say please avoid that. Let's go into the fourth mistake that I see a lot. People very rarely think about their target market. So when you're in school, I see a lot of students that they're thinking about what their office is going to look like, what technique they're going to do, and they don't ever think about who they actually want to see. And I understand that because in school, you're always talking about be of service. You want to make sure that you're serving as many people as possible. So you go into practice thinking that you're everything to everyone, and you're going to see every single person that comes in your door. But that's just absolutely ridiculous, because you aren't meant to serve every single person. It doesn't mean every single person isn't meant to get chiropractic, but we are all different. We all have different personalities. We all work better with certain people. And if you just let anyone come into your office, there's 2 things that are going to happen. One, these people are going to suck your energy out and make it, so imagine you get into the office, you look in the schedule, and you're like, oh man, that patient's coming in today, or oh man, that patient's coming in today. And it's like 10 people that suck your energy out. You really aren't going to be able to sustain that for a long period of time. And so, the burnout rate for chiropractors is like 5 years. I'm sure you've all heard that, but 5 years, maybe 7 years, chiropractors get really, really burnt out. And I think one of the reasons is you're just seeing whoever, whenever, and you're not trying to see the people that you work best with, people who you feel inspired by, people that you want to show up and you want to actually see on the calendar or your schedule. Because imagine showing up to your office and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to see this person, that person, and this person, and you actually feel energized. I mean, that's a sustainable practice that you're not going to get burnt out in 5 years, because you will love coming to work and you'll love helping these people. And so thinking about who you do your best work with, it's super, super important. And another reason why it's really, really important is because your office should be set up for them. Your office really isn't set up for you. I mean, you want to like coming to work, but you want to make sure that the way that your office flows, the paint on the wall, whether you have a resting area. So like my office, I do upper cervical, so they rest afterwards, but I want to make sure that actually when they come in, that they're getting their nap time, as we talk about it, using that kind of language. It's not like, oh, this is our post-adjustment recovery suite. That's a very chiropractic terminology. We call it the nap room, because most of my patients are, women between 35 and 55, and they constantly are being bothered and they never have time to themselves. So when they come in the office, they're like, oh my God, I get to sleep in these chairs for like 30 minutes and no one's gonna bother me. Like, sold. They want care. They don't care about the adjustment. That's irrelevant to them. The experience that they're having in here is the exact experience that they need for their healing, and they're sold on it. So the office is set up for them. So going back to opening your own office and making it the way you want to look, but you don't know your target market. If your target market doesn't like the way that it is, then they're not going to come in. The other way around though, right? If you figure out who your target market is, and then you can actually figure out, hey, this is the way that I want the office to look, because this is the way they want to look. This is the music that they want to hear. This is the kind of, essential oil that they like. These are the hours that I work because they like it. This is the city that I want to set up my office in, because that's where those people are. And so once you do that, then you can design everything around that. So knowing your target market is really, really important. Another thing, back to if you don't filter out who's coming in and not coming in. So you imagine a bunch of people that love the office and that you love working with, and then you have someone come in that doesn't fit. And what happens? Now, not only are they sucking energy out of you, but they're ruining the experience for all of your other patients. And you've created this community in your office. And so you have to protect that. You have to be, you have to think about that. So it's not just you that those patients are affecting, or those people that you don't want in the office, they're affecting all of your patients. And so with target market, I think that you can just start looking at other businesses and kind of emulate that. Usually not chiropractors, but other businesses. My favorite example is Hooters, because it's so obvious who their target market is. And if you look at who their target market is when they do commercials, so when they actually spend their marketing money, like when did they do it? Well, they do it on like Spike Network or UFC fights, because they know that men between the ages of 18, 55, somewhere around there, are watching. They don't do a commercial on Lifetime television, because that makes absolutely no sense. And, we talk about that and people always laugh when I say that, because it's so obvious, but that's what chiropractors are doing. They're marketing in a place that isn't necessarily the target market they want. So for example, if you're seeing patients at a certain income level, let's say they're making $150,000 a year and your care plans are, $3,000 each, and then you're going and you're doing a spinal screening at Walmart, that makes absolutely no sense, because you're just out there trying to get patients. But if you can really think about what your target market is, then you can allocate your dollars in your marketing, hopefully to the people where they are that they're going to come in. And so with chiropractors, they very rarely think about that. They're just, new patients, but creating new patients that don't fit in your office is not great. So the very last mistake that I see all the time is that everyone wants to do everything themselves, because when you're in school, chiropractic school is hard and you made it through, and you usually had to know how to do a lot of things. And so you think that you can just kind of go out on yourself and figure it out. But the reality is, you're in chiropractic school to learn chiropractic, to learn how to help people, and to pass boards, quite frankly. And chiropractic school does great at that. It teaches you how to take care of people. It teaches you how to get licensed as a chiropractor so that you can go out and help people. But running a business and understanding marketing, no one teaches you that. So everything that I talk about, this isn't some sort of original thought process. Everything that I've learned from past mentors, I've learned from seminars, I've learned from books books, podcasts, things that I've read, and that I have read something and like, I like that, or I've heard something, or my mentor taught me that, and I've implemented it. And then hopefully I could teach to other people to avoid big mistakes. And so the biggest thing that you can do is find a mentor, find people that can help you that actually know what they're doing. Because it's interesting that new grads check in with each other and they try to hold each other accountable to like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this. And they both like don't know what they're doing. And they're both like leading each other, like blind leading the blind, I think that's called. But they never actually took the time to ask somebody who has been in business for 10 plus years or has helped other chiropractors with the same problems. So the worst thing you can do is go out there and try to do it yourself. I'm a big advocate of finding an associate position. Now, I realize and I know that there are a lot of associate positions that have been terrible. And I have heard the horror stories. I've seen the horror stories. I know people personally that have been, into an associateship that's been terrible. But the reason for that is usually the doctor hiring the associate has no clue what they're doing and the associate has no clue what they want. And so that's just going to be a bad relationship. However, if you can find an associate position where what your goals are and what their goals are matched, that's going to be a great relationship. And it's going to give you the opportunity to grow. So for whatever reason, chiropractic is also very strange. They're like one of the only professions that I can think of that people don't do some sort of internship or associateship before that they launch out on their own. And the reason why that is because most people understand that they don't know what they're doing. And so chiropractic, there's this horrible thought process that you are only successful if you own your own practice, which is absolutely crazy because, 10% of the total population in America are self-employed. And then chiropractors think, well, 100% of chiropractors should be owning their own office. Well, I mean, not everyone has the personality for that. And quite frankly, you can make a lot more money being an associate than you can owning your own office. Because when you own your own office, you have a lot of expenses. If you're an associate, all the money that you make goes in your pocket. So can you open your own office at a school? Yes, you totally can do that. And I have friends that have done that. But I'll tell you, it's a struggle for 3 to 5 years where you're not making any money. And you know what? Maybe you want to do that. And that's totally fine. But even if you open your own office, you got to have some help. A lot of my friends that have been successful in opening their own practice, they had mentors along the way. They had a plan. They had systems in place. And so if you have that, then great. I think that go at it, open your own office. But if you don't, you should definitely think about finding mentors and finding people to help you. And so the reason I wanted this podcast is because I want to help you guys because I see so many chiropractors, especially I find principled chiropractors. So people who are just really into the work, really into chiropractic, really into, making sure our profession is as principled and close to how chiropractic was meant to be practiced. Those kind of people who are amazing doctors, unfortunately struggle. They really struggle with the business side of it. And I'm so sick of seeing, these doctors, these chiropractors that are doing, all these kind of things that I think that are kind of shady, weird, or sleazy, but they're making money. And then I see these principled chiropractors that are really trying to help people and be true to chiropractic, and they're failing because they don't spend any time or any effort learning about business and marketing and mindset. So that's why I want to create this podcast, is because I want to talk about these things, be able to have an open dialogue. And so I'm never going to sugarcoat things. I'm always going to tell you the truth because I think that you deserve that. I think that after you have spent all this time and all this money to be a chiropractor, and I do think chiropractic is one of the best professions you can possibly have, but man, it could be worst nightmare at the same time. And I don't want that to happen to you. So please email me. You can always go to my website at AlisonBremner.com. Shoot me a message. I'd love to figure out what you guys are dealing with and help you be successful. And the thing that I'm really passionate about now is helping associates become as successful as quickly as possible. And so I get really excited when my associates, when they're busier than I am, when they're making more money than I am, because that means that they're taking the principles that we worked on and being super successful. So I hope this was helpful for you guys today. And I'll be coming out with a new podcast on a different topic once a month, and would love to hear any of your topics that I haven't covered. That's it for today. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you found this to be helpful, and I hopefully will hear from you soon.